So, good morning, dear teacher, dear communities, dear friends. Let us enjoy, come back to our in-breath and out-breath when we listen to three sounds of the bell. So, dear teacher, dear Sangha, today is Sunday, June 7th, in the year 2020. And we are at Blue Cliff. And today we celebrate Vesak. And that is the historical Buddha Shakya Muni's birth, his enlightenment, and his passing away. We celebrate this 1 month late, and that is because this year is the leap year, and in the lunar calendar there is an extra month, the 4th month, and so we decided to take our time and celebrate it the 2nd month of the leap year. And so it's also full moon this week. We apologize that we're not open and therefore not able to invite all of our friends to come to celebrate with us at the monastery because we're still in the middle of the pandemic. And we hope that when things finally settle, we'll be able to reopen again and welcome our friends back to the monastery. Many of our friends have asked us how we're doing, the monastic brothers and sisters, and just to let you know that we are doing okay. And also some have inquired about our teacher's health and our elder sister, Sister Chen Kong's health, and let us know that they're both doing okay in Vietnam. Let us start with a short guided meditation to bring our mind back to the present moment, to calm our feelings. My heart feels a little heavy, and so I need the meditation myself. Breathing in, I am aware of my in-breath. Breathing out, I am aware of my out-breath. Aware of in-breath, aware of out-breath. Breathing in, I am aware of my whole body. Breathing out, I relax my whole body. Aware of body, relaxing body. Breathing in, I am aware of the tension that might have accumulated in my body. Breathing out, I release them. In, aware of tension. Out, releasing. Breathing in, I am aware of the conditions that are crucial for my well-being and happiness, such as fresh air, the blue sky, the sounds of birds, the green colors on the leaves. I breathe in, feeling grateful and happy. I breathe out, aware of conditions for my well-being, feeling grateful and happy. Breathing in, I am aware of the content of my mind at this moment, be it a feeling of joy, happiness, or sadness, or anger, or irritation. Breathing out, I calm all of them. Aware of content of mind, calming. Breathing in, I'm aware that I'm alive. Breathing out, I smile to life. Aware of being alive, smiling to life. So thank you, dear Sangha, for your practice. A while back, a fellow monk and me, the two of us went to town and to do some business in town, and we had to wait outside and for us to be called in one by one. And there was a middle-aged man that was standing there before us, and so he struck a conversation. First, he asked, "Are you monks?" And we said, "Yeah, we are." And then he asked, "Where are you from?" And so I was standing closer to him than my brother, so I answered, "Oh, we're from Walker Valley, not so far from here." And he said, "No, where are you originally from?" And so I pondered a little bit. I get this question asked a lot, and so I just try to be creative in answering it this time. So I said, "Oh, my mom's from Vietnam, and my dad's from New Orleans." And he said, "Oh, New Orleans, I know where that is." And then I said, "My brother here, both his parents are Vietnamese." And out of courtesy, I inquired the same of him. I asked, "So where are you from?" And he said, "Oh, not so far from you." So I said, "No, where are you originally from? Where are your parents from?" And he thought for a moment, and he answered, "My mom was from France, and my dad from," I think he said, "Germany." And so I said, "Oh, so we're all immigrants." And so he said, "Oh, yes, we are immigrant. Our country is full of immigrants. It's all immigrants." And so I felt like we struck a common ground there. Usually when we have conversation with strangers about our backgrounds or religion, I sense some sort of tension. But it didn't actually stop there. He went on to ask, "So, do you believe in God?" I'm a born-again Christian myself. And so I realized where this is going to go. And I didn't want to go into a deep debate about whether there's God or no God. So I just answered, "Yes, I believe in God." And so his face lit up, like, I can talk to this guy. But in my mind, I know what my answer was. Yes, I answered, "I believe in God," but I wonder whether the God that I understand or believe in might be the same or different than the God that he believes in. But I didn't want to go into that. But I felt comfortable answering that question. Yes, I believe in God. The same as I would answer when people ask if there's a self. When they talk about Buddhism, it's talked about non-self. But when people ask if you believe in the self, I can say, yes, I believe in the self, as long as I have the understanding that self is made up of non-self elements, like our teacher has been teaching us. If I understood that, then I can use the word self freely without being caught. And so when I answer, yes, I believe in God, I felt it's in the same line. And then he continued, he asked, "So do you believe in good and evil? What do you believe in?" And again, I pondered, this can be like a long debate, a long conversation, and I felt like it wasn't appropriate where we were standing outside and to talk about religions or beliefs. So I said, in a nutshell, what I was taught was that whatever benefits you and others, you do it. Whatever does not benefit you or others, whatever harms you and others don't do it. And he seemed to agree. So we struck another common ground. Because I didn't want to go into agreeing and disagreeing about whether it's another is good, that's evil. I just share, do good, don't do any harm. So he said, oh yeah, it's like love your neighbor. I said, yes, exactly. And I think what he meant was love thy neighbor as thyself, as Christians are taught. And so after that, the conversation ended there when he was called into the inside to do his business. Later, when I went back, I took a moment to ponder about the word neighbor. I wonder if he understands it the same way, or was taught it the same way as I understand it. And I wonder how it is interpreted, the word neighbor. Can it only mean the neighbor that looks like you or share the same faith as you? Or can it be the ones that look different than you or share different faiths than you? Can they still be your neighbor? Can you still love your neighbor? Can it include like neighboring countries? And can your neighbor's neighbor be your neighbor? So these things kind of came up into my mind. It's quite interesting, but I think I digress a little bit. Let me come back to the main topic. Vesak is the celebration of the Buddha's birth and his life. Let us recount briefly his life. Many of us have known that already, and it has been depicted in movies, in stories, and novels. So, Shakya Muni Buddha was born a prince about 2,600 years ago in a small kingdom called Kapilavastu. What is now present-day Nepal and India. His name was Siddhartha Gautama, and even though he lived a luxurious life as a prince, he has always had this angst that something isn't quite right. As a young person, he suffered. He needed to find a way out. He saw around him there's a lot of suffering. And so he needed to find a way to transform his suffering, to liberate himself and also to liberate his loved ones and others. And so at the age of 29, he left home. He left a soon-to-be kingly position in order to seek the way of liberation, of transforming suffering. And after many years of diligent practice and perseverance, he finally found a way. He found a way to transform his suffering, to liberate himself, and then he came back and shared that with his loved ones so that they can transform their sufferings and liberate themselves. He also shared it with countless other people. He became enlightened at the age of 35, and he continued to practice and to share his teachings for 45 years. And he passed away at the age of 80. Countless generations have practiced his teachings and has achieved the same result. The central message of his teaching is hope. That it is possible to to transform one's suffering. It is possible to liberate oneself. And it is possible to transform that into peace, into understanding, into joy. And we can do that by touching the reality of life, by touching the interconnectedness of life, by seeing that we're all connected. Our teacher used the term interbeing. And with this realization, we are liberated and we're moved to live our lives compassionately and also to express that towards others and also to our environment. So Buddha Shakya Muni did it, and countless generations of practitioners have done it, and so can we. So let us enjoy one sound of the bell. So, what did the Buddha teach? The Buddha taught many things, but his central teachings, in its most simplest form, but nonetheless profound, are the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path. The Four Noble Truths show us that there is a duality, an apparent duality of life, such as suffering and happiness, ill-being, well-being, dukkha, sukha. And they show us the path that leads to each. In the classic Buddhism, it is classified as suffering. The causes of suffering is the second truth, and the third truth is the ending of suffering, and the fourth is the path leading to the ending of suffering. And our teacher, Thầy, prefers to present them in a slightly different wording. He calls the first truth ill-being, and the second, the path to ill-being. The third, well-being, which is the ending of ill-being, or the transformation of ill-being into well-being. And then the fourth is the path to well-being, which is the Noble Eightfold Path. And he went on to say that since the path to well-being is the Noble Eightfold Path, and the path to ill-being, he calls the ignoble Eightfold Path. The Noble Eightfold Path consists of right mindfulness, right concentration, right view, right thinking, right speech, right action, right livelihood, and right diligence. I won't go into details about any of these today. We also understand that on the other side, the path to ill-being would be the opposite of these: wrong mindfulness, wrong concentration, etc. The Noble Eightfold Path is a plan of action. And it's a method of practice. It's not something that we just believe in. It's something we need to put into practice. And it is a way of living. Practicing according to the Noble Eightfold Path, we can bring about well-being. We can bring about peace, understanding, love, joy, happiness, etc. So let us reflect a little bit about the Four Noble Truths in our own lives, on a personal level, and also on a societal level. So I pose up some questions that we can ponder. One is, what are some of our personal ills? What are our ill beings? What are our suffering? This is the first noble truth. And I'm sure we all have some. I name a few: fears, sadness, worries, hopelessness, despair, greed, anger, hatred, jealousy, discrimination, etc. What are some of the causes? What are the alleyways that lead us to these ills? This is the second noble truth. Ignorance is one. Is ignorant to the fact that we're all interconnected. The views that we are somehow separated. The thinking that we're somehow superior to or inferior to others. Another one, overconsumption of foods, of news, of the social media, etc. So some of these are the causes for our personal ills, and I'm sure you can list many more. On a social level, let us do some reflection. What are some of our ongoing social ills? And I am sure, again, you can list many. I can name a few. Poverty, injustice, violence, addiction, crime, homelessness, etc. And the causes: greed, hatred, discrimination in terms of race, gender, class, etc. In the recent events that are also our social ills, we all experience a corona pandemic that caused so many deaths all over the world, so much suffering and pain. And as if that was not enough, the whole world saw the horrid video of the murder of George Floyd, a senseless killing of a fellow human being. And then what followed was the nationwide protests, and now worldwide protests as a result of that. We have friends who've grown up in third world countries or countries with oppressive regimes, said that these things happen a lot. And I agree, they do. But it's just so unbelieving that it happens here in what is called a first world country, like the US, like our country, in a democracy, the land of the free, and yet the killing, the discrimination continues. It sure doesn't feel like we're in the first world country, especially with the pandemic that's happening, that we have the most deaths, and also the murder and the riots and the looting that's happening. The New York governor put this up on his Twitter box. It says, say their name, it's like a hashtag. And it listed a number of African American men and women that were killed at the hands of police brutality. We know that in the police force, in the law enforcement, there are many good officers that serve and protect. But there's a faction that misuse their power and take their anger and frustration out on their own fellow human being. And this is an ongoing list, and some of them happen in New York City. Black Lives Matter. Some people say, all lives matter. I agree, all lives matters. But so much has happened to the African American community that this needs to have attention drawn to it. People are killed senselessly on the street of our nation. The list compiled in 1991, Rodney King in LA, Malice Green, Detroit, Abner Louima, New York City, Amadou Diallo, New York City, Sean Bell, New York City, Oscar Grant, Oakland, Trayvon Martin, Sanford, Eric Gardner, New York City, Michael Brown, Ferguson, Tamir Rice, Cleveland, Laquan McDonald, Chicago, Walter Scott, North Charleston, Freddie Gray, Baltimore, Philando Castile, Falcon Heights, Antoine Rhodes Jr., Pittsburgh, Ahmaud Arbery, Glynn County, Breonna Taylor, Louisville, George Floyd, Minneapolis. And a few names just been added to this list just in the past few days. Let us listen to the sound of the bell and send our energy of love and compassion to those who are affected by the pandemic, by the killing of George Floyd, and by the protests. So, what should we do if we want well-being, the third noble truth? What should we do if we want well-being for ourselves and for our society? So the answer is clear. The fourth noble truth, the noble eightfold path, is your answer. But concretely, though, the answer can be asked in a different way. And that is, what can each of us do to effect change within ourselves and change within our society? Change here means to become better, to become more loving, accepting, and open, to become more human, more humane. In other words, to become well-being. To effect change within ourselves, I put up some suggestions, and I am sure we can find many more. The first thing I feel is that we should take the time to come back to ourselves. and to bring mindfulness practice into our daily lives. And the two most simple forms of mindfulness practice is mindful breathing and mindful walking, among other practices. We learn to take better care of ourselves physically and mentally. And then we do self-reflection. We learn to listen to ourselves, our own suffering, to understand and to accept and to love ourselves. And then to extend that to others. We learn to cultivate compassion for ourselves and for others by learning about the 5 mindfulness trainings and apply them into our daily lives. We learn to rise up. I equate this term with wake up. What do we wake up to? What do we rise up from? What do we rise up out of? What do we rise up above? We rise up above our conditioning, our habits, our likes and dislikes, so that we can touch interbeing, interconnectedness, interdependent nature of life. The pandemic has wakened us all to this fact that we are, in fact, interconnected. So why would we want to go back? Why would we want to delude ourselves of our separateness? Our frontline workers have risen up to help keep us safe, fed, and functioning. People across the country, and now in many other countries, have risen up to peacefully protest the systemic injustices in our society and in theirs. We rise up and out of our comfort zones, our circle of friends. Can we take the courage to befriend another person, a person from another race, a person from another religion, culture? We rise above our own religion so that we can get to know other religions and learn to identify the commonalities between our faiths, and also to learn to accept the differences and respect the differences. We rise above our political affiliation by listening to the other side and learn about their points of view. There's a small story about this in my childhood. So I went to middle school in Vietnam, in Saigon. And I had many friends in class, and we often invite each other to our house, our homes, to hang out. And one day, a friend of mine invited a group of us to her house. And as we arrived, we saw her parents, and they did not look very happy seeing me. And just a couple of minutes later, she came out almost crying and said, I am sorry, but my parents don't want you here. So we have to go. And I was like, oh, okay, sure, no problem. And so we left, and then we went to a different house to hang out. But we continued to be friends, and they came to my house to hang out. But I realized that, her parents were high officials in the Communist Party in Vietnam. This is in the 80s. And to have a person like myself who is considered the enemy of the country because I'm a mixed race child, I'm a child of an American soldier, the invader of Vietnam, etc. And so they could not handle having me around their house. So that was an interesting experience for me growing up, among other interesting experiences. But we continue to hang out as friends. As middle schoolers, you don't care about political parties or which side your family is on. We lost touch for many years, but recently, a few months ago, she somehow tracked me down and contacted me and was sort of getting back in touch with our other classmates. We moved together from 3rd grade until up to 9th grade, and at that point I left for America. So political affiliation, are we able to rise that and to be in touch with another person who might be different or believe differently than us? And what about effecting change within our society? Here's some suggestions. We practice mindfulness as a group, as a community, as a sangha. And again, the basic practice of mindful walking, breathing, sitting meditation. Learn to do things in mindfulness. And all those things that we practice as an individual, we can practice as a group. We develop skills in deep listening and loving speech. We apply the 5 mindfulness trainings. If we are citizens, we go to vote. We write or call our elected officials on the local, state, and federal levels to voice our concern. And again, we rise above our political party lines so that we can truly support what is good for our society, our country, but not at the expense of others or the environment. And we can learn again from this current pandemic that we're all connected, that somehow, somewhere, we affect one another. Because we're living on the same planet. When I practice peace, you benefit. When you practice compassion, I benefit. And as a group, we can effect change much more easily. Let us enjoy another sound of the bell. So to commemorate the Buddha's life, let us heed his message of hope. And let us practice his teaching. In a nutshell, do good, do no harm, and purify one's mind. And we'll do this by following the Noble Eightfold Path, which is made concrete by the practice of the 5 mindfulness trainings in our daily lives. And this is similar to the golden rule in Christianity, Matthew 7:12. It says, "Do unto others as you would have them do unto you." It's called one of the golden rules. And I discovered there's also the silver rule. And it says, don't do unto others as you would not have them do unto you. So these are some of the commonalities between the two faiths, Christianity and Buddhism. Do good, do no harm. So I'd like to end my talk today with a song that you will hear on the screen. It's called Rise Up by Andra Day. It's a beautiful song, and it encapsulates what I've shared quite well. Thank you, and happy Vesak Day. Stay safe.